Alright, this is going to be the install for the Brembo 6-pot SRT8 calipers on a 350Z. On the last video, the 4-pot front install, we already covered trimming the dust shield, relieving the hump. Where that square is, there's a hump. That's already been done, but there's additional material to remove for the 6-pot. We've also already installed the stainless steel line. Just got it running that way to keep it out of the way. So if you need to see your factory lines and caliper and all that taken off, watch the other video. Basically get all your stuff, your stock stuff down, and then you'll want to put the bracket on, don't torque it, and then you'll want to mark the edge of this lower lobe, because when the caliper sits in there, the lobe, it's going to need some of this material here removed to drop in to line up with that. Mounted the bracket, got our box marked out. You want to come in at 20 millimeters, don't go any further than that, and then at that point you want to put the rotor on, test fit it, start at the top, bolt the caliper at the top, let it rotate down, and if the lobe bottoms out before lining up, take a little bit more out. You can also take some out of the caliper. The lobes on the caliper are very thick. This is why this is opposite than the 4-pot. The 4-pot bracket will go on the side where the nuts are right now. The 6-pot bracket, because there's not enough gap between the bracket and the rotor for that fat caliper lobe, so the bracket has to be put on the inboard side, and then there's a bolt spacer to hold it center on the rotor. That's going to be where we start with this install. All the other stuff's done on the 4-pot. Take the bracket off, take that material down, then bolt it back up. We'll sling the rotor on it, temporary secure it, and start shimming it in. Alright. Where we left off last was talking about taking that area out and relieving it, the material, so that the caliper will rotate down and line up. Going to go over the parts for the install, things you're going to need. You're going to need the 370Z Sport rotors. These are the Z1 2-piece. You can get 1-piece or 2-piece, whatever. You'll need to get a set of Brembo SRT8 Jeep Grand Cherokees WK2 2012 through 2014 comes with those. Get you a pair. This customer repainted his to go with the theme of his car. You also need the stock tech lines, same as the 4-pots, 950 63004, and all the hardware, their dimensions and spec, and links to where you can get them, how much they need to be torqued. All that's in the file. But anyhow, I can show you how much we took out, and that's about where you want to start test fitting. You don't really want to take no more than you have to. Leave the structural integrity as much as possible, but there's just mounds of cast aluminum on there. So taking out what we need to doesn't really affect anything too bad. This is a look from the bottom. In the back, you can see how much material I took out. It's really close to the edge of the inside edge of the bracket lobe, and the diameter, the OD of this is a little smaller than the OD of the caliper lobe. But as you can see, this whole arm is solid cast aluminum. That's probably still 5/8 to 3/4 inch thick. Still plenty beefy. And then you're adding structure of the bracket. So now we'll get it all mocked back up, and then we're going to attach the caliper to the top and let it swing down. See if we line up. See how much we might have to take off if necessary. Alright, after we got through grinding the material, so let's line up with the bracket. I mean, these things cover these 14-inch rotors. From the black line past that by probably about 1/8 of an inch. So you're getting 100% sweep coverage. It's the best way you can do this kit, the 2-piece. Anyway, you can see it's got to rotate. You can tell by where the pad's at. It's going to follow that line all the way around. But you can also, when we get down behind here, you'll be able to see what's holding it back from rotating. All right, from under the vehicle, you'll be able to see where we stopped. From this view, you can figure out your mod depth that you're going to need to do before just going and whacking on your caliper. So, the thickness of the lobe versus the thickness of the cut is close. No cigar though. We're going to have to go a little deeper on that vertical line. And then you can see from here is from the center to the center. We look pretty deep enough. Look good on that, but we're not wide enough to clear the caliper. So pull that out. That ain't even screwed in. Undo that one bolt. Set the caliper back to the side. Remember, don't torque these bolts on your bracket while you're doing this. They just need to get tight. Just flatten the lock washer and don't torque it. All it's doing is holding your bracket straight edge. And then these others, you just do that one at the top. It's not really that big a deal to do it and remove minimal. Just do it right. So anyway, take the caliper back off. We're gonna widen that out, and then that distance is what you're gonna scribe the lower hub bolt where that bracket is what's gonna have to be removed, because that's where it's hitting. So whatever that measurement is you get from down here, after you scribe the edge, measure out and make hash marks and take that width out, and we're going to remove that from the caliper. That's going to let it rotate. That's nothing here holding us up except for the width. We'll make that a little wider. Take this out of the caliper, and then the caliper will pivot and rotate from that bolt down that much to get center of hole to center of bolt. Alright, we bolted the bracket back up after we kept grinding, relieving that material to where the lobe would clear, and we could get that lined up. And by doing that, relieving that material, rounding everything off, polishing it up with the sanding disc, trimming that where we had it marked. And you have that clearance. You could actually go in further, but it already has full pad coverage, so perfect where it's at. I do a real good job notching this upright, getting the metal down. Get a socket on everything. Show you the pad coverage. Alright. Actually over the line a little bit. We clear the hat, no problem. But you can see that's the pad right there. That's the thickness of the pad right there. That is the rotor face there, fully covered with that much extra material. So all the way out to the outer edge, and we're overlapping the black line just a little bit. So I would call this one 101% pad coverage. You see the spacer. The first one's welded to the bracket, and then the second spacer is what holds the rotor. It holds the caliper center over the rotor. You get the same spacing between your pads. center in the middle. They come with the brackets. The hardware specs, you'll need, those are long, M14, 1.5, 60 millimeter. You can see with one lock washer, you get full thread. There it is with just barely 2 threads sticking out. Perfect size. All hardware specs, measurements, and torques will be in the file. But that's it. 6-pod install 350Z. You'll need your Stop Tech stainless steel lines. You'll need a 370Z Sport 14-inch rotor, SRT8 brakes, and a set of brackets. Plenty of, that's full lock. That's full lock right there. You got plenty of line. Very relaxed. Not even, you don't even need to zip tie it. It looks good though.